Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where we say, you know what the Marines being sent to LA to deal with the riots could really use? What if they had some affordable cruise missiles? I mean, as soon as you start sending U.S. Marines in to go deal with American citizens, I mean, it seems like you've already stepped over so many boundaries and so many lines at that point. You might as well just throw in some robotic munitions in there just to see what's going to happen. So I think this is an interesting story because it does beg the question of where is the future of Silicon Valley going? Now, one of the interesting things, right, is I've spent years trying to teach technology, right? Python and AI and Linux and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I found is people don't really want to learn technology. They just want jobs in technology, right? They want the salary of a technology professional. They want the benefits of a technology professional. They want the respect of a technology professional. But they don't actually really want to be a technology professional. They just want the job, right? So I've done numerous calls. I was doing numerous calls this year. I don't know, 150, 200 calls this year alone, and basically talking with people. And I was trying to explain to them how you use technology to solve problems. And they're like, Eli, I don't really care about that. I want a job. All right. So anyways, I listen to you folks. I may give you shit, but I do listen to you. So I'm like, okay, you want advice on getting a job, not on solving problems, not on actually building technology, but getting technology jobs. Anyway, so I've been doing these videos, and one of the things I've talked about is the whole idiocy going on in the technology world right now, where we have so many activist employees. So people that are on the company time, using company resources, and directly attacking the company on company time with the resources and then being surprised when they're punished. And talking about other things such as Microsoft, where Microsoft put in these word filters, pretty blunt word filters to if you were sending emails, if you said anything about Gaza or Palestine or anything like that, your email would be blocked. So right, the old profanity filters we had 20 years ago. Apparently, they have been resurrected to put in political topics. And there was one person who worked for Microsoft that was horrified because she had apartheid in her auto signature for emails, and all of a sudden her emails started getting blocked from the system. She was horrified that Microsoft didn't want people talking about apartheid in their company emails on company systems during company time. Anyways, I get a lot of pushback. I get a lot of pushback from you all. Oh, that's horrible. Eli, you're just there for the genociders, right? The whole 9 yards. But the thing that I keep trying to bring up is look, jackasses, you're asking me how to get a job, dipshit. You're asking me how to get promoted, dumbass. And then when I give you advice, you cry, and you won't fucking stop crying, which is why I just get frustrated sometimes. Look, you want to get a job, you want to get promoted, don't put apartheid into your signature. I didn't really think that should be a big argument. But anyways, one of the things to remember with the technology world, and especially with the startup world, is that companies and products fit the market, and then culture fits what's required to make those companies and products successful. So again, one of the things that I talk about is I started off in the Army, right? So 1996, I went down to Fort Gordon. I was down in Fort Gordon. Went to my AIT down there to learn electronics repair. And for my generation of technology professionals, many of us were from the military, right? Again, people keep complaining that I say again. I do say again a lot, don't I? Anyways, I'll say again. I'll try to stop. I listen to you. I'll try to stop. So anywho, so when I started in technology, IT proper in 2000 and had my MCSE, many of the people that I was around were ex-military to some degree or came from military families, that type of thing. And so the mentality in the technology world back then was to solve the problem, suck it up and drive on. Right? If you have an issue, figure out what the issue is, figure out the solution to the issue, and then either implement the solution or go to the boss to say what resources you need to implement the solution. Right? Either solve the problem or come up with an actionable plan to solve the problem, and that's how you went with your career. Your job paid your mortgage and that type of thing. If you did not like your boss, if you did not like your job, put your resume back onto monster.com. Remember Monster? Put your resume back onto monster.com and find another damn job, right? Your boss wasn't there to wipe your asshole, right? Your boss was not there to be your priest. Your boss wasn't there to be your mama, your papa, your sister, your brother. They weren't there to be your therapist. They weren't there to tell you why you should be on this planet. They were there to give you a tasking. You complete the tasking. You get your salary. Everybody goes home, right? In this modern world, though, right, when we had 1% interest rates or damn near 0% interest rates, it became more important to put asses in seats in the technology world versus actually solving problems. So we have a whole generation of technology professionals that I use very loosely, that they have been working at these companies not to solve problems, not to bring ROI, not to bring profit, not to do any of that stuff. They've been basically just been paid to be asses in seats, right? If you take people, you just put them in a seat to be an ass, they're going to get bored, and then they're truly going to become an ass, and your company culture is going to go. And the thing is, it hasn't mattered for a long time because there's been so much investment money pumping into the technology companies. They have not had to worry about being decent leaders. The CEOs of these technology companies haven't actually been required to be CEOs, right? Show leadership or anything else. They think they're camp counselors or God knows what, right? But anyways, times change. When I got in, again, that military mindset was much more normal. As time has gone by, now we have whatever it is. We have people putting apartheid into their auto signatures. The curious thing, though, stop saying that word. Anyways, but the thing is, time goes on, and so we are now flipping around, and I do think there is a paradigm shift going on. You look at Trump, you look at the current administration, and you hear all this screaming about, anti-woke and anti-DEI and all of those types of things. One of the things that I would argue is when you look at that political argument, it takes so much of the oxygen out of the room. You don't kind of hear the normal people. Right? The normal people are just saying, look, the past 10 years has just gotten to be insane. Literally, there was a lawsuit that just went through saying that somebody could sue for reverse discrimination. Apparently, in the lower courts, there had been a verdict that basically, if a marginalized manager was racist or sexist against a majority group, the majority group could not sue the minority, boss or manager, because since they're in the majority group, they can never really be oppressed. This was actually part of the legal framework. I guess this got decided about 10 years in the insanity. So if you're a white guy under a black gay manager, right, and that black gay manager decides to promote other people that aren't white ahead of you, even if you have the merits to be promoted, you literally did not have a legal option there. It wasn't racist, it wasn't sexist because you were in the majority. Right, that's dumb. That's not what any of us were arguing for. We're arguing for empowering everybody to bring all the ships up. That is stupid, right? So anyways, I think this just went to the Supreme Court, and now you can sue for quote unquote reverse discrimination. It's not reverse discrimination. Discrimination is discrimination. That was the entire damn point. But anyways, that is a video for another time. I think one of the interesting things that we're looking at in the mid-2020s is if you get rid of the MAGA folks and you get rid of the Antifa folks and you just start looking at more of the middle ground folks, is I think there is a re-normalization to a lot of things as they were about 15 or 20 years ago. As I've talked about, I look at my grandparents, and when I was young, my grandparents would tell me things, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, look at these old people. They don't understand. And now I'm almost 49, and I'm like, wow. My grandparents were very wise people. Should have listened to them a little bit more. And I think the interesting thing is that in many ways, society, and I would question whether the technology world is going to be reverting into a different paradigm than we had before. So interest rates have now gone up, which basically means high net worth individuals are investing less in the startup tech world because they'd rather invest in other things. You have a crap show going on in the financial markets, again, with the Trump administration with 145% tariffs and 50% tariffs and 30% tariffs and all this kind of different tariff stuff going on. 277,000 Chinese students being tossed out of the country, the whole 9 yards. Right in the real economy, there is a lot of chaos. And so businesses and organizations and investors and startups have to figure out where they should be positioned in this chaos and where the money is. And so at the exact same time, there's massive tax breaks. At the exact same time, we're getting out of NATO. At the exact same time, a lot of other things are happening. One of the curious, weird things for our country is we're investing more and more into the military. There's more and more cash on the table to kill brown people. Because, you know, in America, there's one thing we like to do: slaughter the fuck out of brown people. And so we're going to have the largest defense budget in our history at $1 trillion. We are currently in no wars. We are currently disengaging from NATO. We're doing all of that kind of stuff. At the exact same time, we are going to have a defense budget of $1 trillion. Well, here's the thing. Put the morality, the ethics, the stupidity, all that aside, the reality is that there's $1 trillion on the table. And so if it's becoming ever more questionable whether you can make money as a B2C company, a business to consumer company, as you don't know what's going to be happening with other businesses, so being a B2B company is questionable. One of the things that might not be so questionable is basically going after the government money. Right? So if the government is basically a dinosaur, a lot of the products that they use and a lot of the systems that they have are basically archaic. And there are reasons that they're archaic. We're not going to go into that here, but they are archaic. It would be wise to upgrade them. The current players in the military and the defense market are basically just vampires sucking the blood out of our society. So if you can have some startups come in, there could be some very interesting things there. This is the kind of environment that makes technology people and startups and investors go, I wonder how I can get my share of that $1 trillion. And that's where we get to Palmer Luckey. Palmer Luckey, I do believe, will be the millennials version of Elon Musk. Palmer, stay away from the fucking ketamine. Dear Palmer Luckey, if there's one piece of advice I can give you, is stay away from the ketamine. Please, for the love of golly, right? So basically this guy, he came up with the Oculus back in the day. So they crowdfunded the Oculus Rift, so the VR. They got purchased by Meta for $1 billion. So he crowdfunded it and then sold it to Meta for $1 billion. God bless. Anyways, whatever. He then took that money and then he created this company called Anduril. And Anduril came out 10 years ago. Don't quote me on that, but a while ago. And when it initially came out, it was a bit of a questionable thing. It was interesting. It was like surveillance systems and border control and that kind of stuff. Basically, the idea is what happens if you took the Silicon Valley technology, kind of the Silicon Valley ethos, and went after defense contracts. And so you look at it, and again, you look at this guy. You look at this guy that was even younger 10 years ago, and you're like, okay, but yeah, what's he really going to be selling to the military? And so initially, again, it was surveillance systems and that kind of thing. And then they came up with anti-drone weapons. So they basically have like this anti-drone sledgehammer. I don't know if you've seen this thing. So it's a reusable thing that basically is just an airborne sledgehammer. It detects drones and then just rams the damn things. So you sit there and you're like, oh, okay. Well, an airborne sledgehammer against drones. Yeah, okay, I mean, that's still in the Silicon Valley world. That's a little more kinetic than we're used to in Silicon Valley, but whatever. But now, if you look at Anduril, they have all kinds of things. So one of their big things is for the U.S. military, they're coming up with a new rocket motor. Developing future precision munitions. There's a new rocket motor for, quote, the U.S. military needs affordable, high-volume precision fires that can be delivered at scale. We need affordable mass. Think about this for a second. Think about Silicon Valley coming in, right, with this whole mentality of hyperscale. Think about hyperscale for slaughtering human beings. Think about when the Silicon Valley techno kings aren't killing young women because they're driving them into, whatever mental issues and therefore they commit suicide. What happens when they're killing young women by actually smacking them in the forehead with rockets, right? Anyways. We need affordable mass. Anduril's solution will increase magazine capacity while maintaining the range, effectiveness, and lethality required on today's battlefield. So they're coming up with these rockets as one of the things they're coming up with. Here's their subs. So they have autonomous subs so they can go out and blow up other people's ships. That's good. They're dealing with hypersonic engines right now. Again, for I do believe they have an autonomous aircraft that they're going to be deploying pretty soon, or at least testing out pretty soon. And they've got their cruise missiles. They've got their cruise missiles. Off the shelf cruise missiles. Imagine. It's like think of Joni Ives' design for Mac computers, only for lethality. So they're coming up with their own literal multiple different cruise missiles. And so it's curious to be thinking about this, where as we see, Palmer Luckey appears to be doing very good in the world of killing folks. And again, the whole idea of affordable mass. And so we see this, so coming from TechCrunch, Anduril raises $2.5 billion at a $30.5 billion valuation led by Founders Fund. So he now has an over $30 billion company. Founders Fund has led another enormous round for defense tech startup Anduril with a $1 billion investment as part of its new $2.5 billion raise, the largest check the firm has ever written. Existing investors also piled in, and Anduril spokesperson tells TechCrunch. Anduril has now doubled its valuation to $30.5 billion with the Series G raise. Also notice that these companies are never IPOing anymore. Series G, oh God. We're going to start seeing Series Z rounds pretty soon. The spokesperson says the round was over 8x times oversubscribed. So basically, there were 8 times more people who wanted to invest into Anduril that were able to, meaning many more investors wanted to buy than the amount of stock Anduril was selling. Anduril, which makes autonomous weapons and software to control them, says the new funding was raised after the company doubled its revenue in 2024 to about $1 billion. All right, and you figure how this is going to go. It's still a relatively new, young company. It's going for the military market. In the United States alone, they have $1 trillion worldwide. There's just a metric crap ton of money on the table. And so an interesting question here, for technology companies, for founders, for investors, is the business of killing people a good business to be in right now, right? If you look at the tools and the systems that we use for kinetic force, one of the big things that you see is that a lot of our systems were designed and built and developed decades ago. I was watching one of these military YouTubers, pretty good military YouTuber. He was talking about I think it's the Paladin artillery system, and it looks like at the end of the day, the Paladin artillery system will last 100 years. It's a motorized artillery system. I guess it came out in like 1950 or something like that. And it looks like it'll be around until about 2050. And so one of the big issues, if you look at like the F-35 program, if you look at a lot of the weapons programs, it takes years and years and years to get through the government bureaucracy, right? And then at the end of it, by the time you get through all the government bureaucracy, the enemy that you're facing will be different, right? We built up a military to deal with the Cold War and ended up fighting folks in Afghanistan, right? We then build up a military to deal with Afghanistan. We're not going to go into it. Anyways, we build up a military to deal with Afghanistan, and we come out of that, and now we're trying to switch to go and deal with China for some reason. Again, for any Chinese people out there, I don't have an issue with you. I have zero interest in killing Chinese people, but our psychotic politicians, they got to have some brown blood for some reason, right? So we're changing over to start fighting with the Chinese, and so this. It takes years of planning, it takes years of development, it takes years of production, and then once you finally get the product, it's not fit for essentially the current market. So it becomes curious, if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, what did Elon Musk do? Like, he looked at NASA, and he looked at their bloated procurement process and how that works, and basically thought, hey, if I fund and develop based off of what they need, the objectives that they need, then I don't have to go through all of these steps. I can just simply come in and sell them a finished product. And so if we look at it right now with the Dragon Crew capsule and the Falcon rockets that SpaceX has, right? They are sending astronauts, up to the space station for a little while longer. We'll see how that goes. That's, again, another video. But they're sending folks actually up to the space station, where Boeing, an old school vendor for NASA that should have just been able to create a space capsule and be done with it, their space capsule apparently was good enough to get the astronauts to the space station. Not quite good enough to get them back from the space station, though. And so you look at how fast SpaceX has been able to move, and then look at NASA. Now it becomes interesting. What if you swap these out, instead of it being Boeing and SpaceX? What if it becomes Lockheed Martin or McDonnell Douglas or these defense contractors versus companies like Anduril? What if you start having investors and Silicon Valley technology companies, they start coming in to create everything from missiles to other vehicles, literally put the product on the table and say, here is the finished product. Do you want to buy it? How much value is there? And when you think about it, beyond just simply selling to the American government, selling it to the worldwide government, where does that put Silicon Valley in another 5 or 10 years? Does it put Silicon Valley on a much more military, old school military footing than it's been in quite a while? And where does that put you with your little anti-apartheid auto signature? Do you think these companies are going to give a damn? If you look at Meta, all right, so Meta has actually teamed up with Anduril for their XR, so extended reality. So you have AR, which is augmented reality. You see the world, and you have like an overview, kind of like the Terminator thing. You have virtual reality, where you just see the virtual world. You have merged reality, which is kind of an improved version of AR. And then you have XR, which is, I don't know, so many words. They just invent words. Anywho, so XR, there's virtual stuff and there's real world stuff, and you got something suction cupped to your face. Anyways, right, Meta, since they failed miserably on creating their metaverse, Mark Zuckerberg put tens of billions of dollars into metaverse failure. He needs to recoup that investment. So he's teaming up with Anduril to create an Army XR platform. They took over the project from Microsoft. Microsoft was using HoloLens back in the day to try to create this XR platform for the military. So Anduril and Meta are now being involved with this. Apparently it's something like a $30 billion contract. And so now you're going to see a company even like Meta get into the world of slaughtering other human beings. And think about it. Like when you think about Microsoft, so when you think, okay, Microsoft creates operating systems, it creates server operating systems, and it creates services. It also has the Azure cloud platform that anybody can use. So if you say, look, this is an infrastructure for businesses and governments, and then you're told that Israel uses Azure and Azure services, for whatever it is that Israel's doing, I'm not going to get into that, you're probably like, well, I mean, you may not like it, you may protest it, but you get it. Like everybody's got payroll. Everybody's got payroll, right? Peace Corps has payroll, military has payroll, right? Everybody uses spreadsheets. Are you really going to tell certain people they can't use spreadsheets, right? Whether you like it or not, you can probably understand it. What becomes interesting is when you have Meta. And as far as I've been able to understand, Meta has been a pure consumer play. Whether you look at Facebook, whether you look at Instagram, whether you look at WhatsApp, everything is in that cuddly, touchy consumer world. And so for them to be getting attached into directly supporting military systems, is that foreshadowing the technology world that we're going to be looking at in the next 5 or 10 years? And I think it is. I think it is, especially as the war in Ukraine drags on, especially as our senile old white guys keep trying to get us into World War III somewhere in the world. Where will the U.S. get into World War III? Will it be Ukraine? Will it be the Middle East? Will it be Taiwan? Yeah, ask me in the back. Yeah. Maybe if there's a possibility we can get into World War III in 3 different places around the globe, maybe the issue is us. Maybe the issue is us. But anywho, what can I do? It's reality. I'm not telling you it's a good reality, but it's the reality we got, right? And so in this world, is this something to be considering, and then thinking about where you fit in with all of this? That's what I notice, especially with a lot of young people. A lot of young people want to fit in with the crowd. And it is what it is. I came from a bit of a different generation for the young tech people. There was a lot more, especially in the startup world, right? The startup world, that kind of thing. If you're going out and creating your own business, it was actually about a little bit more being a rebel, that type of thing. Rawr. Anyways, if you didn't like your job, you quit your job and created something else. You didn't sit at your job and cry about your boss all the time. Anywho, right, one of the things I've noticed nowadays is in the technology world, so many people in the technology world are just lemmings. I'm not even being nasty about it. I'm just exhausted. I just can't deal with lemmings anymore. They're just so lemony. Like, God damn. So many lemmings. And so many lemmings just do what everybody else does. Why do they do what everybody else does? Because they always do what everybody else does. They want to be part of the group. And so part of the group, for a long time now, has been kind of anti-establishment. Anti-establishment, anti-this, anti-military, anti-authority, anti-resist, right? The resist movement. Think about it. The resist movement now is, that whole concept is 8, 9 years old at this point. And you have a lot of people that have been steeped in it. Have they really thought it through? Do they really embody the ethos of what they're arguing for? A lot of them probably don't. They just go along to get along. And so a curious question for a lot of young folks out there right now, again, if you're 18, if you're 20, if you're 25, and you're thinking about the character that you're going to play, right? When you go into work, you're playing a character. Nobody gives a crap about you. I think about this with a lot of minority people that I've listened to, right? You ask questions and then you shut the fuck up and listen. And one of the interesting things you hear from women and black folks and that kind of thing is that they don't want to be like white guys. They understand that white people just want to be ticky-tacky all the same. But what the white guys need to understand is I'm my best me, which is hilarious. There's this idea that white guys just want to be all the same. They manufacture it off the factory line or whatever else. But that these other people, they're unique. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. Nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody cares about you. Your wife hopefully cares about you. Your kids hopefully care about you. Your parents, it depends on the day, right? But when you go to work, nobody cares about you. Nobody wants the authentic you, because basically, if you give them the authentic you, then you have to deal with their authentic them. And holy crap, if there's something worse than your authentic you, it's their authentic them. No. Go to work. You play a character. You go along to get along. You talk about the damn weather. You get the job done. You work as part of the team to keep the ship in a quantum computer state going in that vague direction, right? And so something to consider is, as the world changes, is it wise that the character that you present, because that's what it is, it's a character, boys and girls, it's a character. The character that you present in the workplace, is it wise to be the quote-unquote resist character anymore? Is that going to get you the brownie points, the promotions, the raises, the new projects that it may have gotten you a year ago? Right? When I talk about this character thing, I think about this with one of the clients that I had. So I had this one client, and I dealt with their office, their business office, right? And it was a CEO, and this guy was a hard charger. He was a hard charger, and everybody agreed that he was an asshole. Right? He paid the bills on time. He paid you exactly what you were owed. Many times he wouldn't quibble about the bill or anything. He wouldn't try to over negotiate or anything. But by God, if you told him that you're going to do something, you were going to do it. And everybody knew he was just a hard ass asshole. Well, it's funny. I did so much good work for his business. He had systems at home. So he's like, hey, do you do residential service? I said, yeah, sure. You pay me my hourly rate, I'll fix your computer. So I go to his home. And the funny thing, I would go to his home and I would talk with people in his house and be like, he is the most loving, wonderful father you've ever met in your life. One of the nicest men I think I've ever known. And I talk with the house cleaner about him. I talk with the other staff that would be around. All of them just glowing, effusive about how nice and loving and kind this man is. And when you went to the office, he was a complete another asshole. That, yeah. Basically, when he started yelling, he would stop when he got tired, type of thing, right? It's the character you play to accomplish what needs to be done in the business environment. And so this is something to consider going forward as the technology world shifts. Is the personality of your character appropriate for the now? And you can do whatever the hell you want, right? You can put apartheid in your auto signature all day long, girlfriend. Just don't cry to me when you get fired. That's the reality, right? You can fight the good fight, but you just have to realize there's a good chance you're going to lose that good fight. And as long as you're okay with that, hey, do whatever the hell you want to do. So anyways, I think this is curious. I do believe Palmer Luckey will be the Elon Musk for the millennial generation, having, again, basically brought VR to the forefront, however well that did. However well that ended up, he is the mover that really brought VR to the popular masses. Now he's pushing forward with this commoditizing death using technology, and so just like people fall in line behind Elon Musk to do whatever Elon Musk is doing, I would argue within the next number of years they're going to be falling along in line behind Palmer Luckey. And so then something just to consider is, where do you fit into that new world order? And just how horrible all this is going to be. Because what you have to realize is, if you do something, the other side can do it too. And if you look at manufacturing capacity, I mean, I wouldn't want the old white people in my government to actually concern themselves with things like logistics. But, you know, if the way that we're going to win a war is through affordable mass, I've just got to put it on the table. I think the other side is going to be better at that than we are. I mean, yeah. Who has the most manufacturing capacity on the planet for the most affordable price? I don't think anybody is going to say the United States of America. But anywho, conversation for another time. What do you think about Anduril raising $2.5 billion at a $30.5 billion valuation? What do you think about Palmer Luckey being the Elon Musk for the millennial generation? And what do you think about the technology world going to a more militaristic stance, the way, frankly, it used to be a couple of decades ago? Put your thoughts down below. Remember, thumbs up work, thumbs down work. Tell me I am a geek god or I'm a geek Satan. Remember, in this modern world, all that matters is that interaction. If you want to go down there and put 20 comments about what a worthless piece of crap I am, all I have to say is, thank you, sir. Thank you. Anywho, with that, see y'all later.